Excellent, excellent. Thanks for coming out. We have a special guest today to chat with us for a bit, Mr. James O'Barr. Mr. O'Barr is the best known as the creator of the comic book icon The Crow. He is a self-taught artist, comic book writer, and illustrator. His original version of The Crow is one of the best-selling graphic novels of all time, has been published internationally, and was adapted into the hit 1994 film starring Brandon Lee. The film launched a multimedia franchise, involved subsequent films, video games, comics, novels, and a syndicated TV show. Mr. O'Barr won the Yellow Kid Award in 1995 for Best Storyteller, a Lifetime Achievement Award from the University of Maryland and Eastern Shore. Without further ado, please help me welcome Mr. O'Barr.
Thank you.
So just to kind of get the ball rolling here, The Crow's over 30 years old. You've traveled the world interacting with fans of various ages. What do you think are the reasons for its appeal and its staying power?
I think it's still in print 30 years later because it deals with universal themes of love and loss and justice, and those can be said in any time or place. So.
Cool, thank you.
It deals with emotions we're all going to go through at some point.
So it's sort of a resonance there. Do you how many what are some favorite fan stories you have? Just interactions you've had that really stuck with you?
Well, I mean, for a long time, I kind of felt like the world's misery dumpster because people they want to tell me the worst thing that ever happened to them in their lives and how I help them get through it. And I think we talked about that yesterday. It's like, I don't know what to do with those things, you know. And once they get in your head, they're there forever. So, but I just think it's cool to know, it's comforting to know you're not alone, that someone else understands how you feel. But yeah, the fans have been great. They've supported me, given me a great life for 30 years now. Almost 40 now.
Oh, wow. Well, we've got some of those fans here in the audience, so we'd like to open it up to questions now. Who'd like to come up and ask a question?
Do it. I don't know what to ask for anything. Oh. Go ahead.
So the whole reason that you wrote The Crow was to sort of a cathartic way to deal with the death of your fiance due to a drunk driver. Then during the production of The Crow, Brandon Lee was killed and he was engaged to Eliza. Did you commiserate at all with her, or what were your feelings kind of having the same thing happen in two different contexts?
Yeah, Eliza and I became very good friends, and you know, I would go visit her all the time, you know, because Brandon's mother lost a lot, but literally it was like 10 days before they were going to get married, you know, and she had a wedding dress she was never going to wear, and I understood how that felt, you know. I 1000% knew what she was going through, so we got to be good friends. You know, it was a comfort for her to know that, you know, I cared and that, you know, I put the effort forth to go visit her.
So was there a point at the beginning when you started working on the book or thinking of the idea that, like, I think a lot of us, it hit the scene and we were like, wow. But before that, tell about the part where, like, maybe you're like, I don't know if this is ever even going to be seen, or this idea in my head, is it even worth putting on paper?
Well, at some point, it's just like, nah, I didn't think it was commercially viable. You know, it's not a complex story, but it kind of starts in the middle and doesn't explain anything till the end. So at some point, I'm just like, I need to do this for me, you know, and hopefully if I'm honest enough and, you know, put the effort forward, that the right people will find it, you know. But yeah, I thought, you know, maybe I'll find 400 or 500 people that understood what I was trying to do. And that would have been good. That would have been enough for me. I never expected it to become this phenomenon thing. So, yeah, that's a. I kind of think of the movies and that stuff as separate from the things I do. You know, when I'm at home, I'm the same person I was 40 years ago. I don't know if that says something about my immaturity, but you know, I'm no different. I still got to change the litter box and pay the rent, so I'm no different, you know, now than back then. I still feel the same way. I'm still attracted to the same things. I'm emotionally stunted, is I think what I'm saying, but it's, you know, I just try to keep all that stuff separate. I'm just James.
Hi, welcome to Cedar Rapids. Thank you for coming. Growing up, what were some of your inspirations? Were you into comics? And you had that, you know, silly putty and the whole thing, and then growing up, what was your inspirations for that? And as you drew closer to coming up with The Crow, is there any symbolism in that with like Poe or Hitchcock or something? I mean, how you went that direction and using a great symbol that obviously it's legendary.
Yeah, I didn't read a lot of comics as a kid. We were super poor, and they weren't expensive back then, but there were just other things to buy. So I didn't read a lot of comics. Most of what I know, I've learned from film, and there's a lot of similarities, you know, about setting up a scene and you know, perspective levels and things like that. So I studied a lot of film. Read real books, real prose books, you know. Whatever, you know, I spent most of my time at the library.
So in regards to the movie, how did that come about? And when it was first brought up to you, how did you feel about this story being made into a feature film?
Well, the Tim Burton Batman movie came out, and suddenly comic book movies were hot again. So they went around and bought up every comic they could get their hands on. You know, it's not much money to them, and honestly, I never thought they would make it. You know, it's just like, this isn't the kind of material you see in a comic book movie. You know, it's very dark and violent. I'm still shocked that they managed to get it out there with an R rating. There was nothing like that back then. So, but yeah, initially I thought they're never going to make this, and it's you know, it's $2,000 free money for me. You know? But surprisingly, within like a year and a half, it was in production, but I think that was because it was such a low budget movie. They didn't spend a lot of money on it. About 3 weeks of filming, and they know with the amount they invested, they could make that back on video sales alone. So I don't know how they got such a great cast and Academy Award-winning cinematographers. So I think I got really lucky with a good movie.
In regards to the comics, was writing it just as gratifying as the illustration work?
What's that?
Was the writing just as gratifying as the illustration work?
I always consider myself an artist first and a writer second. But then I have a whole box full of writing awards and like one art award. So, but I think I understand when to shut up and let the picture tell the story. Whereas typically a writer will want to describe every single thing that's happening, and I'm not going to insult the reader. And there's like 10, 12-page sequences in the book that have no words in them at all, and people would swear that there were, So it's just, I think I have a good understanding of how comics works.
Once again, it was such a great pleasure meeting you earlier. I just wanted to ask a question, kind of in a follow-up question to earlier. Seeing that it's almost 30 years after the film's release and even longer after the comic came out, I mean, you were saying you were expecting like maybe 400 or 500 people to maybe like it. Did you ever anticipate that there would be this big of a phenomenon that would happen with this? And also, too, if somebody came from 2024 to the past when you first wrote it and told you that this was going to be this big of a phenomenon, what would you have thought at that time?
I would have thought they were crazy, so. But when I was doing the book in the 80s, it's like the kind of music I was inspired by and the French poets and that stuff, it was like, I was like maybe 4 or 5 years ahead of the curve. So when the movie came out, it was like kind of just at the right time when alternative and kind of goth music were breaking for the first time. So yeah, I just feel lucky I was ahead of the curve on that. I would have thought it would have all dated badly by now, like 80s, 90s music, but it still holds up really well.
Hello again. You talked earlier, just a few minutes ago, about being kind of a misery dumpster for other people to put. It's kind of the same idea as like a sin eater. You take all the darkness so the world can have some light. Certainly, The Crow and other things you've done have brought joy to many of us. That's why we're here. That's why we travel to see you. But what, I think, artists for the living, you're a creator. What is still inside of you that you still want to create? Is there anything modern that has inspired you? Maybe some of the younger generations, you see something that's like, hey, it's going to get passed on or something. Is there anything like that you can describe for us?
Well, mostly I still study films and certain comics, but the stuff I like, I think we're all just tuned into the same wavelength. I don't care for superhero comics; they don't really speak to me in any way. They don't offer me anything, So I read war and crime books mostly, Ed Brubaker type stuff. But yeah, there's a whole new generation, and it's a worldwide market now. It's like a kid in Brazil can do comics now thanks to the internet. Never has to step foot in America. So it's a worldwide market, and there's a lot of talent out there. It's a good time to be in comics, but it's also a miserable time. So they're dying an inch at a time. Most comics they're subservient to the films now. It's just like keep putting something out there until we get a new movie out. And because of that, they're not establishing any new storylines. They're just being very repetitive. So.
I understand there are film adaptations of your work. The early ones were good, the later ones were not so good. Have you considered giving another pass at a cinematic adaptation of your work?
Well, there's another one coming out this year, so I don't really have anything to do with that. I cash the check, that's about it. But, my belief is if they make a good film, people will like it, people will come. So you guys will decide what follows after this. I kind of feel like I made my movie. I don't have anything else to say with that storyline. So we'll see what they do.
One more question for you. What was probably one of your favorite stories with Brandon Lee?
They had me meet Brandon at the production offices because there were a lot of people they were talking to and interviewing and auditioning for the role, and Brandon came in, and he was just the nicest, sweetest, gentle, generous person, and it was like, okay, obviously he can do the physical part, and with the hair extensions and that, he's going to look great, but I think he's too nice to play this character. You're supposed to be afraid of him at certain points, but yeah, he was just so sweet. And then we did like the first makeup and wardrobe test, and as soon as he was in that outfit, he became Eric. So much so that for like the next 15 years, if I thought of Eric, I thought of Brandon, not necessarily my book. So yeah, it's just like I part of me is kind of like I owe my whole career to Brandon. So I'm eternally grateful. I forgot who asked that question.
So we probably have some aspiring artists out there. What sort of suggestions, words of advice do you have for people who would like to become visual artists?
Don't, now there's so much competition with, digital art and now AI art. I don't know if those two words go together or not, but I don't know. It just seems it's getting increasingly more difficult to make a living at it. And it's frustrating. And like I said, it's a world market, so there's a kid in Argentina who'll do the same job for half the price. So it's an interesting time. We'll see what happens with it. And I'm not against AI art. I mean, I've seen some really amazing things, but I also understand that those are, small thefts from other people's work. I don't necessarily think what I do could be duplicated by a machine. I think there's just too much heart and soul in my artwork, and too much honesty that a computer couldn't. I don't think they would understand what makes it special. So I don't feel threatened by it, is what I'm saying.
So in addition to The Crow and sort of you've worked in other genres, you've done some film noir-ish type things, some goth punk cyber things. You even did some sword and sorcery type work, right? Yeah. So what are some other genres that you like to play in when you get the chance?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the film noir stuff from the 1940s when just everything, the fashion, the cars, the Art Deco, architecture. I'm just a really big fan of that, Not to mention that normally they're black and white films, So music is a big influence on me still. I'm not as myopic as I used to be. If it wasn't a punk band, I didn't want to hear about it. But now I'll listen to anything that's honest and makes me sad.
So what are some of the things that make your work a playlist?
Mostly it's obscure bands, but the cool thing is like there's an endless river of music that it's just every time I think I've heard everything, every band that sounds similar, it's just like somebody will tell me, oh, you need to check out this band, and like I said, I have a never-ending search for the saddest music in the world, so yeah, there's some, I'm still discovering the bands from the 90s, that I'm like, how did I not hear of these people?
For music lovers, it's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah. And it's cool that I got to be friends with, like, all the bands that I was fans of, so, I mean, I still have Trent Reznor and Henry Rollins on speed dial, so it's been good.
Yes, nice. All right, well, So we're going to wrap this up here. I know there are lots of people out there who still want to meet you at your table. So on behalf of QuadCon, thank you for coming here to join our con. We really appreciate it. And thank you for spending this time with us right now and sharing your stories.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming. I'm gonna have a cigarette.